When Finesse brought music to Michigan for a performance twice, the promoters instructed him to park 3 blocks away from the venue and walk there wearing all of his jewelry. The Memphis rapper was set up to go through unfamiliar areas completely naked a week after someone attempted to jump him at a bar in Texas. His response to the entire incident has caused controversy on the internet. Music. Let's examine Finesse2tymes' experiences in Michigan in detail. On April 20, 2026, a video featuring 2 instances of Finesse in what was characterized as a frightening scenario went viral. The rapper, whose actual name is Ricky Hampton, was booked for a gig in Michigan and showed up when Michigan organizers instructed him to park 3 blocks away and walk to the venue while wearing jewelry. He was prepared to perform. However, the promoters gave him nonsensical directions when he arrived. For a rapper who wears pricey watches and chains, let alone someone with good sense, 3 blocks away is the park. Wear all of your jewelry as you make your way to the location. With hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of jewels dangling from his neck and wrists, he is walking 3 blocks in an unfamiliar place. The rapper simply declined. He said, "No, it's not worth the risk," and he meant it. To display the funds, putting himself in a position where he might be robbed or worse was not worth it. Rappers weren't acting rough for the cameras. This individual chose to leave what he perceived to be a setup after reading the room. Now, a lot of work is being done by the word attacked in the headline. The tale went viral on the internet, portraying it as though Finesse was shot, beaten, or jumped twice in Michigan. However, the truth is more nuanced. From his point of view, what transpired was an effort at a music setup. The promoters placed him in a situation where he might have been attacked, robbed, or abandoned on the sidewalk in a strange city. And anyone who has followed this man's career would attest to the fact that he has encountered similar circumstances before. Only a week had passed before something extremely similar. In fact, a worse incident occurred in Texas. Finesse allegedly fled the venue without performing when someone attempted to jump him twice after his performance in Nogales, Music, Texas. A video of him hurriedly departing the location went viral. In the video, he can be seen quickly leaving the facility while surrounded by other people in the parking lot. The internet began making fun of him right away. He was being referred to as a coward. It was said that he fled. His entire image was being questioned. And now, only a few days later, Michigan promoters are asking him to wear his jewelry music while walking 3 blocks through strange neighborhoods. You can see why this man was getting impatient. You see why he declined. But you have to go back to the beginning to understand why Finesse keeps finding these circumstances, or why he keeps finding them twice. Born Ricky Hampton, Finesse is a rapper from Memphis, Tennessee. He has been incarcerated for a number of offenses, including possession of a firearm and violent robbery. This individual did not have a comfortable upbringing. Music, he was shaped by Memphis. He was formed by the streets. And the fallout from that life further molded him. The rapper's legal troubles go all the way back to 2010. For 2 felony counts of violent robbery, he was given an 8-year jail sentence in 2010. Music, although he was freed in 2016 after serving 6 years. 6 years in prison. He spent his whole childhood in a music cell, having entered as a young man and emerged in his mid-20s. The world had altered by the time he left in August 2016. Social media had taken off. Ricky Hampton had to figure out who he was going to be since hip-hop had changed. Along with other Memphis rappers, including Moneybagg Yo and Black Youngster, the rapper founded the rap group Memphis Music Greatest Underrated when he was 20 years old. Their self-titled EP, That Was the Beginning, was released 4 years after the group was formed in 2016, but freedom was short-lived. After his performance at the Power Ultra Lounge nightclub in Little Rock, Arkansas, the U.S. Marshals arrested him once more in July 2017. It was predicated on pending allegations of aggravated assault with a firearm, as reported by AP News. Music Finesse received 2 sentences of 5 years in jail for having a handgun in December 2018. He was taken back to federal jail on the night of the nightclub music performance that was meant to signal his comeback to the spotlight. Music, he was sentenced to 5 years this time, after moving from the stage to the back of a squad car. The rap artist served more than 3 years of a 5-year music sentence for unlawful firearm possession, before being released from prison in 2022 on probation. That conviction came after prior accusations of involvement in a high-profile nightclub shooting in Arkansas and aggravated robbery in Music, Tennessee. The clock was running out when he eventually returned home in July 2022. He was released under supervision. Every action he took was being observed by Music. Every choice was weighed against the possibility of turning back. Nevertheless, the music was ready for him. Finesse2tymes released music, songs like Backend shortly after his release, and they went viral on TikTok. On the Billboard Hot 100, it reached number 86 music. His success in the music industry was further cemented by his mixtape 90 Days. The man who had been cycling music in and out of jail for more than 10 years suddenly had a hit song. The streets were familiar with him. The internet was now familiar with him as well. He turned into one of those uncommon hip-hop tales. A rapper whose street credentials were earned in real years behind music bars, whose genuineness was not staged, and whose suffering was not a show. However, touring followed the fame, and promoters followed the touring. Music, the issues also accompanied the promoters. Live performances have been a source of confusion, controversy, and danger, if there is one recurring trend in the career of Finesse2 beyond the music. Nearly every significant event in his career, from the greatest highs to the lowest lows, has been linked to a live performance, or the events leading up to one. The most catastrophic instance occurred in March 2023. At a rap event in Rochester, New York, unjustified concerns of gunfire caused a crowd to rush toward the exits in a stampede that killed 1 person and left 2 more battling for their lives. Authorities reported that just after 11 p.m. on Sunday, people were leaving Rochester's Main Street Armory after the Memphis rap duo Glorilla and Finesse2 Music had concluded their performance. Started to rise dangerously. It was the end of the concert. Panic broke out after the music stopped. It was concluded that none of the victims' injuries were consistent with someone music being shot. There is yet no proof that a shooting took place within the event. A sizable crowd rushing toward the exits appears to be the cause of the injuries. Based on reports that people heard what they thought were gunshots. There were no gunshots. There were no weapons discovered. When loud noises were heard, people expected the worst and rushed to the exits. Music, but the bodies were stacked in the doors. Underfoot, people were crushed. The fallout was terrible. Rondisha Belton, 33, of Buffalo, and Brandy Miller, 35, of Rochester, were fatally injured when audience members surged dangerously toward the exits. 2 ladies lost their lives, 2 families were devastated, and the Main Street Armory's license was cancelled while officials looked into the circumstances surrounding the stampede that occurred after Memphis, Tennessee, rap stars Glorilla and Finesse performed twice on Sunday night. Finesse twice, while shaking his head at the accusations made against him after his performance at the tragic Gorilla concert in Rochester, New York, when 2 people were killed by trampling. When the stampede happened, he and Glorilla had already departed the venue. They weren't on stage. Although their names were on the ticket, the public and the victims' families were demanding accountability even though they were not present in the building. One of the victims of a crowd rush at a Gorillaz and Finesse performance twice has decided to file a lawsuit. The massive legal ramifications solidified a painful reality for Finesse2tymes. His performances attracted danger. His name kept coming up next to phrases like turmoil, shooting, and stampede, whether or not it was his fault. The promoter problems followed. "They say don't come to my shows," he wrote in a narrative. However, this is a perfect illustration of why I move the way I do. When I get in Clarksville, Tennessee, these people don't even have my back. I'm more upset that I was unable to fulfill the people's desires. I apologize for the inconvenience. The promoters in Clarksville, Tennessee, were really poor. He was engaged for a gig by a promoter in Clarksville, Tennessee, but the promoter was unable to pay him. He arrived. He was prepared. Additionally, the individuals who made the reservation were unable to fulfill their obligations. This is the reality of the mid-tier touring circuit, when promoters occasionally underdeliver, overextend, and leave artists stuck in cities with nothing to show for their travels. Then there came the scandal involving impersonators. He was charged earlier this month with using an imposter to fill in for him at a recent performance. A video of an unidentified man singing his popular song Black Visa with Moneybagg Yo at an event in Huntsville, Alabama, appeared on May 5. The man had on all the jewelry worn by Memphis rappers along with a black ski mask. However, many present assert that it was purportedly Finesse2tymes' brother, rather than him. In Alabama, a person wearing a ski mask and elegant two-time chains took the stage to play his songs. The building's admirers understood it wasn't him. The promoter was enraged. According to one of the promoters, they spent $40,000. $20,000 in advance, and an additional $20,000 thereafter. The imposter then drove off after stealing the money. The optics were disastrous, whether or not Finesse2tymes approved of this. At a live performance, his name was linked to scandal once more. This is the context in which the incidents in Texas and Michigan occurred. When he arrives at a venue, this is the world's Finesse2tymes in music. The promoters are not trustworthy. There are moments when the venues are dangerous. The fans are erratic. Furthermore, in 2026, the threats are turning into physical and personal ones. Texas existed before Michigan. Finesse2tymes was scheduled to perform in the Little East, Texas city of Nacogdoches on April 13, 2026. One of the most contentious events in hip-hop that week was what transpired there. Finesse allegedly fled the bar without performing after someone attempted to jump him twice after his performance in Nacogdoches, Texas. The video became viral. A man who has been referred to as Finesse2tymes is at the center of the activity. He moves quickly, dodging other people and parked cars. The rapper walks from the left side of the screen to the right, eventually passing a white automobile and continuing into the darker backdrop, as the camera operator tries to keep him in music frame by panning and jerking. The video has a brutal text overlay. In Nacogdoches, Texas, they ran off Finesse2tymes. The internet was ruthless. Music of Finesse was ridiculed twice by critics who used laughing emojis, made blatant barbs at his street credibility, and compared him to other artists who had escaped similar circumstances. He left his fans, one user wrote. Others posted memes and gifts implying the rapper ran from danger, but context matters. Notably, the clip contains no footage of any attempted assault, no physical contact, and no confrontation inside the club. It captures only the exterior aftermath or, depending on interpretation, the escape itself. No audio beyond ambient crowd noise is discernible. The entire sequence lasts just over 14 seconds, leaving massive gaps in context. 14 seconds. That is all anyone saw. 14 seconds of a man walking fast in a parking lot. No punches, no guns, no confrontation on camera. In response to the growing backlash, Finesse2tymes posted his own explanation on social media. According to the rapper, he was outside the club, possibly in a vehicle handling payment or other business. When a situation arose, someone directed remarks or an altercation toward his associates inside. He and his group then entered the club to address the issue directly. By the time they got inside, venue security had already intervened. The individual in question was reportedly isolated, possibly blocked inside a bathroom, and the situation was diffused. Finesse2tymes says the video circulating on social media was captured after that resolution, as he was leaving the area, not as a panicked flight from an active threat. His version of events is the complete opposite of what the internet decided happened. According to him, he went toward the problem, not away from it. The video people saw was him leaving after the situation was already handled by security. No venue representatives or law enforcement officials have publicly confirmed or denied his account. On the other side of the argument, defenders point to basic survival instincts. Music in a genuine threat scenario, a group attempting to jump a performer, leaving the area is the smartest move. Rule number 1 as a man is pay attention to your surroundings. Music 1 reply reads. Another user notes that the rapper was there to work, not to fight, and that walking away from potential violence is not the same as cowardice. Some observers have also raised the practical risks of smaller market shows. Clubs and towns like Nacogdoches may lack the security infrastructure of major city venues, leaving artists more vulnerable. This is a critical point. When a rapper with a 2-time platinum profile, gold plaques, viral hits, expensive jewelry, and a known street background shows up to a small-town club, the security is not the same as a major arena. The bouncers at the door are not trained protection details. The parking lot is not secured. The exits are not monitored. Everything that could go wrong can go wrong in an instant. And that brings us right back to Michigan just 1 week later. So, here we are. Finesse2tymes is in Michigan. The promoters are telling him to park 3 blocks away and walk to the venue with his jewelry on, and he says no. Is this a man who was brutally attacked? Technically, no. No punches were thrown. No shots were fired. No one was hospitalized. But was this a man who was put in a position to be brutally attacked? That is harder to argue against. And the pattern tells a story that is more troubling than any single incident. This is a rapper who, in June 2023, had a driver who was hired for an afterparty during Birthday Bash ATL while Finesse2tymes was on stakes. A shootout occurred, which resulted in 5 people being wounded, including the driver, who survived a shot to the head. The driver claims that the Memphis MC did not provide enough security to control the crowd and is suing him for emotional trauma and the expensive medical bills he incurred. This is a rapper who, on top of everything else, is in the middle of a bitter contract dispute. Finesse2tymes has been demanding that JPR Jr. let him out of his contract with Mob Ties in recent months. The move comes as the rapper has been complaining about his contract with Mob Ties, which Prince Jr. founded back in 2017. The frustration has boiled over publicly. Finesse2tymes has been complaining about his deal with Mob Ties for months. In one recent social media rant, he compared his treatment with the record label to slavery. He said that the situation has gotten to the point where he doesn't even want to put out a new album. Mob Ties, the worst deal I ever signed, he admitted. Think about what that means. He is touring. He is performing at these venues, the small clubs in Texas, and the booked shows in Michigan. Not because he wants to, but because he has to. The label situation is draining him financially and creatively. The shows are his lifeline. And yet, the shows are the very thing putting him in danger. The Memphis rap star has returned to federal custody following new allegations that he violated the terms of his supervised release. His real name is Ricky Hampton. Federal prosecutors now claim he breached release conditions on 3 separate occasions, including an arrest in Texas for terroristic threats, music, and 2 failed drug tests. His legal situation is a tightrope. One wrong step, one incident at a show gone bad, one confrontation in a parking lot, one situation that escalates, and he could be back behind bars for the remainder of his sentence. So when the promoters in Michigan told him to walk 3 blocks through unfamiliar streets wearing his jewelry, what they were really asking him to do was risk everything. Not just his chains, not just his physical safety, but his freedom. If something had happened, if he had been robbed, if he had fought music back, if we had been involved, his supervised release would have been revoked on the spot. He would have gone from a concert booking to a prison booking in the span of an evening. And he knew it. That is why he said no. Music now, was this a brutal attack? The title of this video is sensational. There is no way around that. Finesse2tymes was not beaten in Michigan. He was not music jumped. He was not hospitalized. But what happened to him, and what has been happening to him repeatedly throughout 2026, is a pattern of dangerous situations at live shows that sooner or later could result in exactly that. The Neckadokius's incident was a near miss. The Michigan situation was a potential setup. The Atlanta shooting in 2023 left 5 people wounded. The Rochester stampede killed 2. The danger around Finesse2tymes is real. It follows him from city to city, from venue to venue, from promoter to promoter. Whether the title of this video is literally true is almost beside the point. The man is under siege from shady promoters, from hostile crowds, from his own legal history, and from an industry that books artists into venues that cannot protect them. Speaking about how his challenges shaped him, he said it was just life. Like just everything I was going through, it's what inspired me to go hard like this. He has always channeled his music reality into his music, but in 2026, that reality is catching up to the music. And the question music is not whether Finesse2tymes was attacked in Michigan.